What's up, guys? Today we're going to use floor jacks and jack stands the right way. Let's get into it. First thing you need is a nice clean floor. If your floor jack can't roll, it's actually very dangerous because as these things operate, the lift pad comes up on a swing angle. So it does not come perfectly straight up. It does come up and arch a little bit. So it's really important that there's no stones or sand or anything underneath the vehicle that's going to affect its ability to move. Now the way that these things work is we twist the handle, and as we do that, it opens and closes a hydraulic valve through one of these little universal joints. So it's important that you have it locked. When we're locking it, just firmly twist it clockwise. You don't have to crank on it. You want to be able to release it with one hand and control it relatively well, because you don't want the vehicle to drop suddenly and quickly when we're lowering it down either onto the jack stand or when the job's complete. So when we're using a floor jack, loosen the handle off, just snug it clockwise firmly, okay? So we got the handle which locks and acts as the hydraulic pump jack, and then when it's locked, it lifts up our jack pad over here. It's important to know that some of these jack pads can turn, and this one has a nice rubber insert in it, but you can see that it has these steel tabs around the corner. So we can actually lift up this rubber insert and take it out if we wanted to, but I like to leave them in. It just provides a little bit more stability. But what's important is that my lift point is a steel ridge, and we need to run it straight across the middle of the pad. So I have it this way, that steel ridge is going to hit those two steel tabs. So I like to have it this way so that it's resting on that rubber all the way across. When we're talking about jack stands, it's important to know that there are a couple different types. These older jack stands are nice, they're wide, they're stable, they're heavy duty, but they do have one major flaw in them. And it's that this ratchet rod down here makes contact with the floor. So you can see that as I'm moving the frame, it stands still and the top is kind of wobbling around. So whenever we're using these older ones, we have to make sure they're up on at least one tooth. Some parts of a jack stand, turn my flash off here. So we have the saddle up top, the lock handle, the ratchet bar, locking tab, frame, and ratchet stop. Now this is a 2-ton big red jack stand. And so here's our lock release. This is our saddle, ratchet bar. Got the locking tab in here, and it's attached to this this lock handle through a roll pin. Now sometimes these roll pins break, so it's important to check the function of your jack stand before you use them. Another thing that you want to do is just take a quick look at the frame. Sometimes these things get tossed around, kicked up against the wall, whatever the case may be. You want to make sure that the frame looks like it's in good shape. If there's any dents, especially along a corner or anything like that, it's going to compromise the structural integrity and you shouldn't use it. That being said, they are fairly strong and durable. So it's not often that happens, but it's always a good idea, especially if it's lifting the vehicle above your head. You want to make sure it's in good shape. So we're going to reset the jack stand to the bottom. Couple safety notes before we get going about jack stands is that you slide them under the vehicle by the frame and then lift up the ratchet bar and saddle by the center. Never stick your hands or fingers above the saddle when it's under the vehicle. If the jack fails for whatever reason and your hand's here, you're going to lose whatever's resting on top of that. It's going to point load at least 1,000 pounds, and it's not going to be pretty. So we're going to slide that out of the way. Most important thing when you're putting a floor jack under the vehicle is that you have a visual on your lift point. Now this is a unibody construction, which means it's all one piece, so there's no separate frame underneath to lift on. So these are the most common type of build on cars and smaller SUVs and even some small trucks now. That's a 2006 Chevy HHR. This is a 2016 Chrysler 200. Both of these vehicles are unibody construction, and they're going to have a designated lift point in front of the back wheel and behind the front wheel. And what that looks like on this car is on this plastic rocker cover has a cutout. So we're going to look inside that cutout, and you're going to see this steel ridge that runs from front to back. This is the unibody lift point. Some people call it the pinch weld, some people call it the drip edge. There's a bunch of different names for it, but that's your lift point. And you're looking for something similar on most unibody vehicles. Typically there's going to be an indication that it's a lift point. We'll have like little metal ridges or an arrow pointing towards it, something like that. All right, with my head under the vehicle, I'm going to watch the jack pad go up and make contact with our lift point. This is a very crucial step. You have to have visual confirmation that your lift point is centered on the jack pad, or you will not be lifting this vehicle safely. Now that we're on there, climb out, and we're going to lift the vehicle up nice and slowly. Now this is not a race, just like anything we do here, so keep in mind, go slow, listen for any weird noises. If you hear any cracking or crunching noises, stop right away and let the vehicle down. We'll look at the lift point and see what's going on. Now, typically for this activity, you're doing this because you want to take a wheel off, so we're going to lift so we have at least 3 to 4 inches underneath the wheel that we want off. Going to lift the jack handle up so that it's not in the way, and then we're going to slide the jack stand underneath. Now, because these have this plastic rocker guard on them, I'm not able to get into the lift point with the jack stand, so I'm going to have to go further in, lift it up, and then over. Now you can see I went 1 notch too high. There we go, right around there. So the drip edge is centered in the jack stand saddle. My lock is engaged, and now I'm safe to let the vehicle down. Alright, so now that the jack stand's in place, I'm going to slowly lower the vehicle onto the jack stand. Keeping in mind, I don't want to just crack the handle and let it fall. I have to have control over this. So I'm going to need 2 hands. I'm going to set the camera up so we get a good shot. I've got 2 hands on the handle of the jack and releasing it nice and slowly. There we go. Now, before we ever work on the vehicle, double check, make sure nothing's moved. It's still in the center of the saddle. The jack stand's parallel. It's not, crooked left or right. All 4 corners are on the ground. Give it a little push, make sure it's not going to fall off, and you're good to go. Now, resetting this is just the same process. Bring the jack up so it's close to the car. Check our lift point. Make sure it's centered. Lift the vehicle up. Once it starts to move up, the weight's off the jack stand. We can lower it, pull it out from under the car, make sure it's all the way out, and then lower our floor jack. Again, you want to control the speed that this goes down. So I'm just going to crack the handle and then lower it nice and slow. Perfect. You don't want to pull the jack out until you know the pad's all the way at the bottom, or you might catch something when you're pulling it out. And that's it.